Happy Monday, everybody. It is Monday, not October. I don't know where I am anymore. October 16th. It is December 16th. If it were October 16th, we would have a lot more left in the year. And we don't, because there's only like 2 weeks left in the year, everybody. But happy Monday, everybody. I am really excited to be here. We have a fantastic guest on tonight. I am so thrilled for you to meet them. They will be on in just a moment, but before we get there, quick reminder about a few things. You've probably seen on my Instagram that I am going to Providence on Wednesday because we are very fortunate to be screening A Taste of Youth at a wonderful, wonderful little art studio in Providence, thanks to some wonderful folk in the town of the city of Providence. So if you are in or around Providence, Rhode Island, please come to A Taste of Youth on Wednesday at 7 p.m. sharp. We only have the space for 2 hours, and because it is an hour and 45 minutes long, we will be getting started right away, so that way there's time for a Q&A after. I hope you all will join me. I have never been to Providence before, and I am really stoked to be able to go there and see it. I have heard wonderful things about it, and we have some wonderful friends from there. If you all remember Brandon from the Monster Makeup company who did Saint Drogo and Death Drop Gorgeous, that's where they're based out of, and they are the reason that I have the connection that I do for us to go and do this screening. So, anyone in or around Providence, I will see you on Wednesday at 7 p.m. because you know you want to come and see me, and more importantly, you know you want to come and see A Taste of Youth because only a very small crowd of people have seen this movie so far, and you are not going to want to miss it. In addition, don't forget, we are still raising funds for The Contract, which is our next feature film. This movie is going to be so much fun. It is a gothic, erotic, queer, BDSM, body horror, all the things you could possibly want in a delightful little horror feature film. But we need your help to do that. So please go to thecontractfilm.com, and we have 9 days left in our campaign. That's right, I said 9 days, and I wasn't stuttering, and I wasn't wrong on the time or anything. Maybe this is why I wish we were in October, because we would have more time left in the campaign. But we don't. It is not any more time than 9 days. So please go to thecontractfilm.com and see how you can help us out. And then in addition, because it is the holidays, I do have to promote one more thing. I think it's very important. If for your friends and family who desire to read queer, fat positive short stories, there is a wonderful short story collection out there called Homophobias that I may or may not have released. I did release. It was me. I'm lying. This is me. This is me on the cover, and this is me, the writer. You're going to want to go and pick up a collection of this because it is a wonderful collection. It came out September 13th and had its birthday on Friday last week. So 3 months old it is. This is what a parent feels like, I suppose. But we have some wonderful folk in the audience, and I'm really excited. Some new people to see us here. We've got Folk and Myth actual plays, which I know our special guest is a part of. So thrilled to hear that and have them here. Um, Stacey from the UK, hello. Alex the DM, hello. And I think that's about where we should stop then, because we should get to our special guest and have enough of me talking. We are very thrilled at SideKick Productions, and by we, I mean me, because I am the only one here right now. Me and I guess all the faces behind me. But we have a wonderful, incredibly talented performer. They do just about everything from what I have seen. They are a burlesque performer. They work in the world of TTRPG, and they are near and dear to my heart in terms of performing as a horror performer. I'm going to actually start with that because they provided us with a wonderful little clip from a movie that I really enjoyed watching. And I'm going to bring that in right now before I bring in our special guest.
Take that, you piece of shit Revealers bookstore. I am leaving, and I am never coming back.
Hey, Angie, I don't want to ruin your moment, but
We're not going anywhere yet. Are you kidding me? What else? What other crazy, messed up shit do I have to deal with in a single day? It's the first trumpet. The first of 7. Listen, it's okay. Listen! Do you hear that? Hail, fire, and blood will rain down from the sky. The destruction is unimaginable. After that, the second trumpet. Soon, the mountains will erupt with fire, and all the water will be poisonous. Sally? Still with me? This is the end, Angie Petterelli. You thought hell was a joke? You thought hell wasn't real? Think again. Sally, I'm gonna need you to back up off me now. Okay, I'm not
Hell
playing.
is coming for you. It is coming for everyone, and all of your sins and all of your judgments. Oh, how you're gonna pay.
All right, Sally, stop it, all right? I don't want to hear anymore.
Why? You still think you're gonna make it to your man? And what are his sins, Angie?
Sally, or whatever you are, I'm warning you.
What is he, a junkie? A sexual deviant? Whatever he is, a reckoning will come for him. All the same. It will come, and it will feast on his mouth! You punched me, and my...
Twat. Go ahead and say it, Dudley Do-Right. I punched you right in your dusty twat.
Oh, my lady business hurts. What was that for?
Snap you out of it. And you're lucky a Coos bruise is all you got. Now, still want to stick around? Or you want to get the hell out of here?
A cool bruise. I've never heard that expression from this movie, and I've heard a lot of expressions before. So
I can't remember. I was watching the clip and I was like, oh, this isn't the final cut clip. So it made Coosbers may not have made it in there originally, but yeah, Coosbers was something that we laughed about many times on set.
as one would imagine. But before we get anywhere, and talking about this clip and everything, can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hey everybody, my name is Caito. My pronouns are they, them. I am a horror actor, burlesque dancer, and TTRPG performer.
Now, I'm going to ask you to explain TTRPG because, believe it or not, you're the very first TTRPG guest I've ever had on the show. And I meant to have our friends from Queen's Court Games, Aaron and V, on the show, but they haven't had a chance to be on yet. So you have broken the ice for TTRPG on SideKick Power Hour. So I'll stop talking so you can explain what that is.
Yeah, for those of you who are not familiar with it, TTRPG stands for Tabletop Role-Playing Games. Many of you are going to know that just right off the bat as D&D, but there are so many different games out there. Some of my favorite include Vampire the Masquerade, which is World of Darkness, and Vessin, which is Free League games. So it's for the uninitiated, it is a really amazing vessel through which you create characters and worlds and storytelling with a number of players at the table and a facilitator who's usually called a game master or a storyteller, who's kind of the director of sorts in all of this. And you all collaborate and create a story together in the world and using the mechanics of the games. So very frequently over at Queen's Court Games and very frequently at Folk and Myth.
And I think what a lot of people might not know who aren't familiar with TTRPG is that there's a lot of professional and semi-professional companies out there who do this. Like
Yes.
this is one of their jobs, or hopefully their full-time jobs someday. Kind of like what we do at SideKick Productions when making movies. There are companies like Folk and Myth and Queen's Court Games, which Caito mentioned, that do this for a living or quasi-living.
Yes. Yeah,
And
absolutely. On Twitch, we've got actual plays up on YouTube. Yeah, we're kind of all over in terms of content. Twitch is what we tend to do live, and then the VOD, the video on demand, is usually on our YouTubes. So yeah.
and that's all pretty awesome stuff. I've started to
Mhm.
dabble in it, as you know. Um, I'm gonna have a busy early 2025, in fact, because I got cast in two different games. One I've never
I
heard of before called Die.
Oh my God, you're gonna love Die. It's based on a comic book.
Oh, then I'm thrilled.
Yeah, it's so
I'm
good.
very
It's so
excited.
good.
And then I'm very, very nervous about a very lengthy game. I'm a 10 episode game of Wraith that I'm stoked, but I'm also like,
Oh, you're
I
gonna have
can't find anybody who's played this
so
before.
much fun. Folk and Myth Bleak Season, who's in the chat right now, might actually know Wraith. I think Alex also knows Wraith. So there's some folks I could put you in touch with who know it, who can help out. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
I know you just finished, I think, a game with Folk and Myth, Seven Spires, I think it was.
Yes, we just wrapped Seven Spires, which I think was 8 episodes. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Seven Spires is we were using the Dragonbane system, which is a Free League game system. So it's kind of the Free League's whole that game production company. Their whole ethos is that it's low crunch, so low mechanics. Like not as much dice rolling, more narrative and role play
Mm,
focused. And Dragonbane is kind of like their dark high fantasy version. It's a bit akin to D&D, but a little less crunchy. Yeah.
And I think because I've seen a lot of actual play very recently, 89 games in fact. But, the I've noticed that more and more it seems like people really gravitate towards the ones that are narrative based and less dice rolling. Would you say that's correct?
At least kind of in the circles that I tend to find myself in. And I think a lot of that has to do is there are so many of us who are actors or have performance backgrounds, or who are writers and things like that. So I think that we find that the like low crunch, high role play, high storytelling, um, really, at least for me, like I don't know how this acting year has been for you, but for me, it's been a little dismal. Um, it really does keep those acting muscles sharp, which is really nice. Like, you're doing so much improvisation. There's also this really beautiful thing with role playing games that like you are creating this character and it's very much originating from you, which I know that as like as a screenwriter and as an actor that so much of you goes into these characters. So
Mhm.
I think that games like Vampire, and things that are just more narratively driven, I think appeal to a lot of folks who do performance, just because it's yet another opportunity to flex that muscle.
Yes,
Yeah.
I completely agree with you on that. So, and I mentioned before you even came on that you done you do many things. In fact, you are the multi hyphenate as I often hear turned around on the circuit. That's a very common word now. Instead of saying I'm a blah 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 blah, you just say I'm a multi hyphenate.
Yeah,
So
let's just lump it all together.
so I guess which what was your first that you sort of delved into in terms of multi hyphenatism? Was it the
Yeah.
burlesque, the TTRPG, the performing in films? Which came first?
So all of that, rewinding the clock all the way back to my youth, I was like a very firmly like I am a stage actor and I will only ever be a stage actor. I did a lot of theater growing up. I did a lot of Shakespeare growing up. I still do Shakespeare. I still love Shakespeare, and I went to school for theater. So I think that the acting like was has always been my primary love. And I up until like 2016 or 2017 was like, I will only ever do theater. And then I totally fell completely ass backwards into film. Like I took an on-camera class and ended up being like, oh, this is what everybody's hype about. Oh, okay, I get it. I think film and theater are just such different beasts.
Mhm.
They're completely different entities, and I really did fall in love with film acting. I still like if anyone called me up and said I'm putting you in this play, I'd be like yes immediately. Um, but there was something specifically about acting on camera and getting into genre film and getting into horror that I was just like I champing at the bit to do more of, and kind of in the process of writing some of my own pieces, co-writing some things, really just going for it in that way. You know,
Mhm.
I think there's something really incredible about horror films, especially recently. I think with directors like Ari Aster and things like that, where people are starting to take horror seriously as a genre, especially like this year with The Substance coming out. Demi Moore, Chef's Kiss,
5 Golden
amazing.
Globe nominations in a
Yes,
musical or
5
comedy.
Golden Globes. Yeah, for a musical or comedy. But I was also reading, It Came from the Closet, the queer horror
Yeah.
essay, and I didn't realize, maybe because I got into and became a fanatic horror fan, later on in my adult life, that I didn't really grow up with it, so I didn't know that films like The
Mhm.
Exorcist were so critically acclaimed, like
Mhm.
award-winning critically acclaimed films. And I I love it when an underdog like a horror film can just shine through, especially during award season where it's all just like whatever the fuck is going to be there. And I think I really found a family in horror films. I love it. I've been to Panic Fest a number of times. I got to go to London, and there's been a number of opportunities that have come up from being a part of the horror fam. So
The horror community is so for despite being how graphic and dark and creepy it can be, it's also very loving. It's a very
yeah,
loving community.
yeah.
Despite the movies that they watch, it's a very loving community.
Yeah, it's so funny because like I'm also a later to the scene kid in terms of metal music. Like I
Mhm.
really came into my own in terms of loving metal, like in the last 4 or 5 years. And metalheads are like some of the nicest people. Like they're just
Mhm.
like I co-produce a metal burlesque show here in Chicago, and like all the metalheads will come, and like they're just like really polite and they tip really well. And like I find that the metalhead genre of people and the horror genre of people are like just some of the sweetest, kindest people you'll ever meet, who just like I'm driving down to Albuquerque in a couple of days for the holidays, and stopping over in Kansas City, and one of my buds from Panic Fest was like, just crash at my house, it'd be great. It was like, oh my god.
It's so awesome. I didn't realize that you and I had such a similar start to our film journey in too, because I started in theater as well,
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm just going to make theater. I'm just going to do theater, and doing theater in New York is wonderful, but it's also very sad because
It's yeah.
everyone you know does theater in New York, and so they're not coming to your play because they're coming to do their own play.
Correct, correct. It's the
So I
same in
got
Chicago.
I got so tired of nobody coming to see the stuff that I did after
Yeah.
weeks and weeks and weeks of rehearsal. So I was like, let's just make a web series. And then voila, I just fell in love with film. And it was almost the exact same time as you. I was about a year earlier. So
Wow. Oh my gosh.
that's pretty cool, I think, that we did that. So
I love that. I love that so much. Oh,
and I loved horror growing up, but I never thought I would make it because I never thought that I was under the impression you shouldn't make something you love so much.
right,
So
right.
and then I just sort of got cast in horror, and then I'm like, okay, well, fabulous, let's keep doing it.
Yeah, yeah. I distinctly remember my mom, who she unfortunately she passed last year, but we were talking a lot about like horror films. She was never a horror fan at all, but I really remember her being like, "Are you sure you're not getting pigeonholed? Are you sure?" Like I was like, I would much rather work and be working regularly in horror than like be aiming for like something other than that, something other than the like what drives me and what makes me excited.
It's so much fun to do
It's
horror. It's
so fun. It's so fun. I don't know how you feel about this, but I certainly feel like when it comes to horror, there is so much theatrical magic that goes
Mhm.
into it. Like there is so much of that. Like there's the movie magic, of course. Like there's brilliant things being done with the camera and how that medium works, but the actual practicals and the
Mhm.
theatricality and the lighting, it feels like being in like this fully immersed play,
It
at least in
really
my
does.
experience.
I love when horror is using practical effects too, because and so many horror people insist on using practical effects, which is
Yes.
so cool, I think, because it doesn't happen a lot in other movies and other genres. it's a lot less of that, as I've come to discover.
Yes, yes.
Unfortunately. But so and I guess well, let's talk about Revealer because we just
Yeah,
saw that clip for that.
yeah.
Tell us about the movie a little bit. What is it first?
So, Revealer is set in the 80s. It's written by comic book writers Tim Seeley and Michael Morici, who Tim Seeley is famous for Hack Slash and
Mhm.
Revival, which is actually an upcoming TV series that is currently in post production. I think they just moved into post.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's going to be on a channel that I probably can't say, but I'm not assigned to it, so whatever. Yeah, Tim is is the writer, the original writer of the source material on that, and Mike has been very famous for his work on like Stranger Things, Star Wars, and various things. You'll see Marichi around if you're a comic book nerd. Basically, it's set in the 80s. It's a stripper and a Bible thumper get trapped in a peep show in the 80s, and the satanic panic is real, and demons have come to Earth, and it is essentially like reverse rapture. So people are getting killed by demons, and some people are getting spared. And it's this two-hander with me and my friend Shayna Schroten. And we basically have to navigate getting out of there, the underground tunnel system beneath the peep show, which ends up being this huge maze throughout the city, and then this kind of big question mark at the end of where do we end up. But it was directed by Luke Boyce, who's also one of the showrunners on Revival. Shout out to Luke. And it was like the little indie that could. Like, I don't know about you, but 2020 hit, and I was like, I will never act again. I will never see another person again.
Kind of
And
been like that every year since 2020. And then something happens, but then it goes back again. So
and yeah, you have this moment of like, wait, I am an actor, and then you don't work for a year plus. Anyway, it's
yeah.
fine. But so yeah, we were all kind of sitting there twiddling our thumbs, wondering what the acting world was going to look like. And then my friend Sarah Casey, casting director and amazing person here who also directs her own films, slid me the script and said, hey, this is about a stripper who fights demons in the 80s. Are you in? And I was like, sign me up as soon as I could audition. And I auditioned. I got the part. I moved down to Champaign, Illinois, and lived in a hotel for a month in the middle of the pandemic. I couldn't even, if I had forgotten my toothbrush, I was not even allowed to go and buy a toothbrush from CVS. We were so quarantined. You were either in your room or you were on set. We did not have any COVID issues during our production, which was incredible. But it was like summer camp, and it was like July and August, and we're sweating our asses off.
No.
We are in this like back warehouse, no air conditioning. It was wild.
I always seem to do horror in the summer when it's like sweating and the makeup is never going to stick on, but somehow it does. But yeah, I don't know what it is about summer and making horror movies, but
I guess that's our time, isn't it? That's when we shine.
well, I'm doing my next horror movie in February just on purpose, so that
Yeah,
I was like,
yes.
we're gonna put it as far away from the summer as possible.
So it's not as hot. Yes,
But everyone will be freezing, but I don't care because
it'll
they
be
won't be sweating.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
I love the premise because if you stop just short of if you stop just at a stripper and a Bible thumper in a meet, then it just sounds like a rom-com almost. So
We have this like headcanon about it too, because my character Angie Pitarelli is the stripper, and it comes out later in the film that Sheena's character has a pretty big reason why she is so vehemently attached to God. 3 guesses what? No spoilers. But in our headcanon, like we've rewritten a whole like postscript where like they get together and like end up like raising raising one of their nephews, and like, we have this whole like it's very like The Odd Couple. It's incredibly queer coded. It was just, I don't know, queer horror is so near and dear to my heart, and I think telling queer stories, especially through the lens of horror, is really important. So I was glad to be a part of that.
I love, yeah. I mean, that's what I think makes horror so exciting because you can tell stories about people who are othered by society and make it so that it doesn't matter their identities. You can celebrate them in it, and you can't
Yeah.
really do that in other movies and get as much reception from the
Yeah.
audience. So
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, so you made this movie in. I was wondering if it was a quarantine movie. I never asked you about that, but I
It
was
was
wondering
a
if it was.
quarantine movie. Yeah. It
Because
was
I was like, there's almost nobody in it, so it feels like this is the
yeah.
perfect quarantine movie. So.
Yeah, it was specifically written as essentially a two-hander. There are four characters throughout, and then as well as some of the extras. Who turns out that the majority of the extras that we had were actually crew.
Mm,
So it's people who were already part of set. But yeah, we had really, really strict COVID protocols, and like we were testing like every 3 days, and this was before vaccines
yeah.
too. So it was. I won't lie, it was risky, and we pulled it off, and everybody stayed healthy, and we ended up making this magical movie that we got to make our premiere at Panic Fest in Kansas City,
So cool.
and then it kind of just went around this like wonderful indie circuit. It's on Shutter now. It's on Amazon Prime. It just I don't know. You can't make it out in the background, but there's this like bright neon sign here that is a naked lady's butt. That was my wrap present from Revealer, so
Oh, nice.
she lives on the wall.
That is fun. I saw the movie on Shutter, everyone, so you can definitely watch it there. It is a fun film. And if you have a subscription to Shutter, if you don't, then well, I don't work for them, but you should get one probably if you like horror. If you don't, then don't get Shutter because
Yeah,
that's all they have
don't
is
get Shutter.
horror.
That's all they have.
So you and then I know you just finished the movie. Well, no, the movie of yours just came out, didn't it? Called
uh,
Black Mold, right?
Yeah, Black Mold. So Black Mold dropped. Oh God, where are we? December.
October if you're me. I mean, I don't know where I am. So.
I am totally embarrassed to say I don't remember what day we dropped. So that film is on Tubi. We That one was really wild because like talking about shooting in the summer versus shooting in a winter month. We shot that in like February and March of 2021. I can't remember if it's 2021 or 2022. It's a blur. And it was in Rantoul, Illinois, which is outside of Champaign, Illinois, which is kind of central Illinois, because there's this incredible old abandoned military base down there.
Nice.
Yeah, so we found all these abandoned locations. The writer and director are the same person, John Pata, who is wonderful and phenomenal, and wrote this incredible piece that was very personal to him. And I was just so excited to be attached to that and to get the opportunity to work with Agnes Albright, who plays the lead Brooke, my friend Andrew Bales, who plays Tanner, and Jeremy Holm, who is a gem of a person who plays the man. And just like one of the funniest, sweetest people. And Jill Six was one of the producers on it. She also did hair. If you've seen The Stylist, if anybody is out there a horror fan who's seen The Stylist, she wrote and directed that, and was one of our producers. Yeah.
Fun one.
Yeah, it was really wild. Basically, John was really sweet and got on the phone and was like, you get the princess position because you're going to be inside a car the whole time. Because I play CJ Muller, who is a like they were like, think Fairuza Balk in American History X without like the horrible elements of her. Like she's just this kind of like a greasy scuzz punk in the 90s. And yeah, I play their kind of like the getaway driver to these two photographers who do this urban exploring photography thing. And they break into this abandoned government test facility, and crazy shit starts happening. It was the first time as it does. It was the first time I got to do a death scene on camera.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that was really, really fun. The appliance was hideous. Like I remember warning my mom, like before I texted her, I was like, this is very bloody. She's like, I don't want to see it. Send it to someone else. So I got to like fall out of the car and just dangle there from the seatbelt. It was so fun. It was so fun.
It's also it's fun when your family are also like, and friends are like, I don't want to see you die on camera. Because my boyfriend, a lot of people know who watch. My boyfriend does most of the special effects for SideKick production, and he usually does the kills for me and everything, but he hates watching it because he's
Yeah.
like, I'm like, but you did it. You know this was coming. This is
It's like people who bake cakes but don't want to eat them.
exactly,
Like,
yeah.
was it your boyfriend who did the face peel in The Butcher?
Yes, yes, he
That
did.
was
Yeah.
amazing. I loved that effect. That was
It
so
was so
fun.
good. I loved it. It's my favorite thing, and it's probably his favorite thing he's done too. But
It was
I
so well
love that.
done. It was
Yeah.
great.
Um, I was very, very for everyone out there. Uh, one of the people who saw an early cut of the Brooklyn Butcher was Caito, because I brought them on along with a couple other folk for a test audience to see what they thought about it, and so they saw it before most other people. So and I was very, very grateful for the feedback that I got. So
Yes, it was amazing. I also am I allowed to say that
please, of course, yes.
I got to read the contract. I know that you're in the midst of your funding, your Kickstarter backing phase right now. So the contract is great. Like I was just so in it the whole time. I loved it. So I really, really want you to make this goal because it was just great. So
I am so excited for it, and I've pretty much only tweaked it from when you read it, so it's pretty much what it is. So
it's great. It's so great. And I'm especially eager to see how those like final scenes come together, especially that big final moment.
that's gonna
Yeah.
be fun. So
Yeah.
I did not pay them to say this, everyone. So just FYI. So
It's just because I liked it.
but what about burlesque? We haven't talked about that yet.
Yeah.
Um, burlesque
I
is not something that a lot of people do. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so I started doing burlesque in 2011 when I was living in London. I took a class and I was very honored and delighted to make my show ghoul debut um, at the Madame Jojo's in Soho, which is now RIP, no longer around, but it's an historic cabaret venue in London. And I'm still friends with several of the folks that I performed with. Tiggs Rice, who was one of the soloists in that show, is like still a very near and dear friend to me. I go and do photo shoots with her when I'm in London. Um, so yeah, I really cut my teeth in the London scene, which is really, it's such a wild and beautiful scene. It's very tongue in cheek. It's very camp. But it meshes so beautifully with this like classic style burlesque. So it was a really great place for me as as a stage actor to start out. And then I moved to Chicago in 2012 and just kind of jumped in with both feet, both at the same time in burlesque and in theater. So it was this juxtaposition of like what is going to happen on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night. Because when you do theater and try to do burlesque at the same time, it's really, really hard.
Mhm.
But yeah, I evolved. My stage name is Helena Handbasket. And my style has evolved a lot. I was very like kind of camp cheesecake, pinup, rockabilly vibes, and then like as I was like, I am so genderqueer, and so creepy. I started evolving into this kind of like more dark, vampy, gothy, but also like real camp, lots of edge to it. Like
I think this is a photo, right?
there you go. There you go. Yes, that's me posing with Loki, a real life snake. Yes.
I think I would have a lot of trouble with that because snakes are the one thing that I'm like,
Really?
ah.
Oh, it was just like he just not to freak you out even more. He just really wanted to cuddle. He was just like it was like a baby cat. Like but one that squeezes you really tight.
As one
Um
does, yes, yes.
as one does. That photo is by Jess Chinito. That happened over this summer. So yeah, Helena's like really very dark and vampy, but also just like lots of camp, lots of very, very cheeky, very I like to do really weird things. So like I have like a my signature act is Beetlejuice. That's like a Beetlejuice burlesque act that I do. That I've won a few awards for. And so there's that, which is just like me being a total like clown romper room fuckery on stage. And then there's like the other side that's like I'm gonna be in a black gown and like just slink across the stage to Deftones. And then there's the third one, which is just like total curveball of my most recent group act that I choreographed was based off of an article from Variety magazine where the title was something akin to Stephen King's wife threatens divorce for playing Mambo Number 5 on repeat. So I created an entire group act where I was Stephen King, and I had all of the character, like I had Carrie and Jordy and, like all of these characters from Stephen King novels come on stage, and we did a group act to Mambo Number 5. So like the world is your oyster when you do burlesque.
That's so funny.
It's really dumb. I'll have to send you that video. It was one of the
Please
dumbest things
do.
I've done.
A friend of mine and someone who the Crewniverse knows really well, Mark Eugene Garcia, just wrote a musical called "Shining Through Misery," which is basically like imagine it's a mashup of all Stephen King. So I mean, it's Annie Wilkes is the nanny for the little boy Danny from the Shining, and it's about they all go to the Overlook together, and then they find Paul Sheldon in the snow, and
Wow.
Pennywise is there. Everything that Rose the Hat is there. It's such a ridiculously fun musical.
Oh my God. Wow. That is phenomenal. It's like I truly hope that Stephen King and his whole group do not send a cease and desist, because I kind of need to see this.
I hope people will want to see it, because it's I was in the audience when they did a production of it in New York, and Lin-Manuel Miranda was there too. So
Oh my
so
God.
hopefully, who knows, somebody should like it though, and make it happen. So
Yes. That's
yeah.
phenomenal.
So but that made me think about that. I'm like, oh, that would have fit perfectly in this show.
Oh, tremendous. I can listen. I can choreograph something. If you're listening, I will choreograph something for you.
I can connect you and Mark. It's no problem at all.
Yes, love it.
Mark is in the contract, so there we go.
Beautiful. Love it.
Fabulous. So I guess I've always, so that explains it next. I was always wondering, how do you do burlesque? And like, is it like, do people just have a show? They go to a show and say, I'm going to go to a burlesque show tonight.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. There are so many cities that have such vibrant burlesque communities. It's kind of akin to drag.
That's what because the way you're talking about Helena, it sounds very drag. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh, this feels like a drag character, because on whenever drag queens talk about their character, their personas, they're like, well, so and so is very this kind of queen, and it's like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Talk about the same way. So.
It's almost like kind of going back to at the top of our conversation about like these TTRPG characters that you create. So yeah, I think that Chicago, New York, Seattle, New Orleans, Portland, like truly all across the US, and Montreal has an incredible burlesque scene. But yeah, these cities just like there's been this big resurgence in the last several years of burlesque and popularity of it coming back. It is a huge thing now, which is really lovely. So I'm very fortunate being in Chicago that I have an incredible city and an incredible community that I'm a part of. But also it's kind of this like beautiful little hub where it's super easy for me to go for like an evening to Indianapolis, or to pop up to like, Minneapolis or wherever. And like, it's easy to get places. But yeah, we have the Newport Theater here, which is a essentially almost entirely burlesque venue here in Chicago. We also do belly dance there, clowning, things like that. People do solo shows, music shows, things of that nature. But yeah, there's just you could see a show like that in a theater setting, or you could go to Bordel, which is one of our very famous speakeasies, and like go and have a cocktail in this like dark little bar, and suddenly there's a burlesque performance that pops up. It's been really interesting to have been in the community for now 12 long years. But to see how it's grown, see how it's changed, see how it's actually this like pretty viable industry, both in terms of audience draw, in terms of, compensation for our work, which as artists, we don't often get money for what we do. But to be able to say like, no, I make a good portion of my monthly income performing burlesque is like so fun to say. And
That's
to be
amazing.
able, yeah. So yeah, basically you could throw a rock in Chicago and hit one of the places that you could go see burlesque on a single Friday night. So
And I think burlesque, from what I know about it, because I don't know a lot about it, but I think burlesque is pretty um, welcoming to diverse body types, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. I mean, I think it's like any industry where there is this like really shitty mentality around like typical beauty standards, but
Mhm.
we as a collective community are like, no, 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 no. Like you work with producers who book myriad people, right? Like it's not burlesque is not just thin, white, and beautiful, right? Like
Mhm.
it's everyone is everyone's art is gorgeous. Everyone's bodies are beautiful. Everyone's bodies are celebrated. There are also some really incredible shows that are specifically dedicated to like people of color. Like
Mhm.
there's the Juneteenth jump off show that we have here in Chicago, which happens over Juneteenth weekend, which is entirely Black performers. So it's like 2 nights of entirely Black performers that's produced by the Bodysuit, which is Samsonite, Pinot Noir, and Faggoty Randy. So, a collection of queer men putting like POC bodies on stage, like it's great. It's fantastic. And it really kind of reinforces a lot of the stuff that we look for. At least I've seen in Chicago in the last several years of making sure that we're not whitewashing or slapping, just putting
Mhm.
the shellac on it for the fucking Jeff Awards, because like who cares? Like no,
Mhm.
that's not an actual cross section of your community. Hi Creep, hello. I just saw her pop into the chat,
Oh,
but yeah, so it's I really do find burlesque to be bodies are inherently political, right? And
mhm.
being able to be inherently political with our art on stage and have people consume it and see it and process it and think like, there very much have been times throughout my artistic journey across the board in all of the media that I participate in where I'm like, where is the representation of me? And then I see someone who reflects me back, and then like someone else comes to me and says, I see myself in you. And like as someone who's like gender fluid and queer and part Arab, like I'm able to see that in myself, and I'm able to
Mhm.
see it with other folks that I teach or other folks who are part of the community who are like seeing reflections of themselves on stage. So that just boosts everything, right? That it's like rising tide lifts all boats. So like,
It's been such an important thing, I think, to see more and more of that happening in terms of welcoming people of all types and celebrating them. I
yeah,
know that I know that that's what we do. I mean, that's the foundation of why I have Sidekick Productions, is because I want to
hell
make
yeah,
sure that queer fat people are put out there and celebrated and given the chance to be centered, as opposed to put on the outskirts of things.
yeah,
And when I do TTRPG, one of the things I always tell the game master if they're going to bring me on is that I intend to play the character as a fat person, because I want that. If it's too many, I think people when they do TTRPG, from my experiences, try to create something that looks quintessentially beautiful from the mainstream perspective, and I'm
yeah.
like, no, I want to play somebody who I think we should see in TTRPG spheres, and that's why um, I've been very the people who have allowed me to play with them have been very receptive to this concept. So it's been very nice to see. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad to hear that, and I feel like that is the energy and the attitude across the board. Again, like it's kind of that whole thing about art is like you're just in this like big soup with all of your peers, right? So it's this kind of you're feeding off of and integrating with your friends and
Mhm.
people who are like-minded, but also like it is vital that these stories be put on stage and be put on
Mhm.
camera, that like it can't just be conventional, right? It can't just be this preconceived notion of what this should be. Like fuck off. No. Fuck a should.
And then it's just boring and everything's the same. So I've talked a lot about this with other people, but over the years that I've been to festivals and everything, I start to see I originally everything like, all the web series at the beginning were all basically just three college white kids who are on a couch in their New York City apartment and talking about becoming an actor and dating. And over the years, I've been thrilled to see the evolution of the way people are taking charge and celebrating their own voices and bringing characters who represent them and represent communities that you don't usually see. But it's
Yeah.
still it takes time and it takes money, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, really. I remember recently doing an interview for Canvas Rebel, and they were kind of like, "Well, what's the best way that people can support arts?" And it's like, fundamentally, it comes down to money. It comes down to like support arts programs, support your local creators, buy local things from your local dice maker or whatever. Go see a burlesque show. Go support short films. Go to a horror festival, because that money really does go a long way, in the grand scheme of things, in making sure that all of our voices get heard.
And I would just one up it and say, also tell people about them. Once you
Yeah.
have the experience, tell other people because you need to spread that awareness for everyone, I think.
Yeah. 100%. Fully agree.
So, this is speaking. I guess since you brought up horror again, this has been a great year for horror in movies. What have you enjoyed this year?
I mean, I ate The Substance like it was candy. Like,
I ate it as well, and I
oh
couldn't get
my
enough. I needed
God.
more and more of it.
I
Loved
I
everything.
I recently had like a burlesque movie night here at my house, and one of the people who was coming over hadn't seen The Substance, and the other three of us were like, "Oh my God, you have to see it!" And just her like sitting on my floor, like, So I would say that The Substance probably takes my number one slot this year. Um, God, there has been so much. I really loved Strange Darling.
That's my number two.
Okay, great. I'm so glad we're on the same page, because Strange Darling, like plot twists,
Strange
Tarantino-esque.
Darling was. Ugh. I thought that was going to be my favorite movie of the year until I saw
I
The Substance.
Listen, same. Oh my God. Yes. Kyle Gallner, amazing. Oh my
I
God.
love everything he's done.
Yes. Yes.
He did
Also,
another Mother May I. I think he did a movie that called that this year.
uh-huh.
So good. Everything. Kyle Gallner is amazing.
And then I also,
Everything.
like shortly thereafter, rewatched Jennifer's Body, and I was like, wait a minute.
He crops up everywhere. I'm like, oh, I don't remember you in this movie, but hey, there you are.
LB, hi LB, is in the chat and also said The First Omen, which we actually watched together, which I fully agree. Like, there's been so many like nun movies that have come out, and like I appreciated Immaculate a lot. I think
Mm.
Sydney Sweeney is really powerful. I think First Omen was just really good.
First one was great.
Yeah.
Immaculate for me wins it just because they went there with that ending.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure.
And I'm
That
like,
ending.
that ending. Oh my god, that ending.
I think for me, First Omen wins it just because the like accumulating dread
Yeah.
throughout, and the
Mhm.
inability to trust anybody throughout was like the heel turns, wild. Yeah, I truly consume horror like I am getting paid for it, so we could talk about anything.
Same. Did you see Cuckoo yet?
No,
You haven't seen Cuckoo. Well, that is my number 3. So
on Shudder.
I think it's on Shudder.
Okay.
I saw it in the cinema, so I don't know where
Hmm.
it is right now.
Okay.
But it is definitely my number 3.
Cuckoo spelled how so?
Cuckoo, like the cuckoo bird.
Okay.
Or the cuckoo clock rather.
Cuckoo clock, got it.
Dan Stevens is in it. So
Oh, brilliant. Did you see, speaking of English actors who are jumping into horror, did you see Abigail and Heretic?
Abigail was so much fun.
So much fun.
I am so angry that about the trailer though. I wish they just didn't do what they did in the trailer.
They gave away too much, for
They
sure.
did. But even that, it's still so much fun. I mean,
It's so fun. I realized how much of a crush I have on Kevin Durant.
yes, he's so funny in that movie.
I think I just have a thing for French Canadians.
I mean, why not? But I haven't seen Heretic yet. That is on my list. I just haven't had a chance to go to the movies to see it yet. So
I would love to hear your take on it. I found it really interesting, and when I learned some fun facts about some of the actors in it, I just was even more interested in it. I think it maybe is a bit too long, but I think overall it's also incredibly interesting to see Hugh Grant in a role like that.
And another Golden Globe nomination.
Yeah, which like thank you. Yes. I also saw Maxine this year.
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my Max list though to watch.
Did
So
you see Pearl?
I loved Pearl.
Yeah, I
I
loved
really
Pearl.
loved Pearl. I liked X. It was okay.
For me,
Um,
it's X Pearl Maxine in order
mm.
of favorite. But I'd be very interested to see what you have to say about Maxine. I think I don't know. I think it took some interesting twists and turns.
I always like that. I need
So,
to see Smile 2. I haven't seen that
oh
yet.
yes, I need to see that one as well.
I admit not being I'm not a huge fan of the entity hunts somebody kind of movies.
Sure.
Like It Follows, I know people love It Follows. For me, it doesn't do much because it's like I need a little bit of substance to my not my substance. I need a little bit of substance to my horror creatures and everything. But
Yeah. I don't disagree with you on that. I think It Follows is it's canon, like it's
mhm,
part of the zeitgeist, so I feel like it's important in that way. I also think
totally.
I am absolutely blanking on her name. Oh my god, who is the lead in that? Ma-
I saw it so long ago and I have not seen it since, and I don't remember.
Holy moly. She's also in Watcher and Longlegs.
Oh,
I can't remember her name. I could
I
do a
can't remember.
Google, but we're on air. Anyway,
Also, Long Legs came out too.
Long Legs. I Osgood Perkins is a total fucking weirdo,
And that was a weird, weird movie.
and I kind of loved it for that. Did you see Blackcoat's Daughter?
I haven't seen that yet. No.
Okay, Blackcoat's Daughter is his first one.
Oh, well, then I have to go watch that then.
And it was his first feature. For context, Oz Perkins is the nerdy guy in Legally Blonde. Do you remember
Yes,
the
yes,
nerdy
yes, yes,
classmate? That's
yes.
the director of Longlegs and Blackcoat's Daughter. Blackcoat's Daughter, I really loved. I think tonally it was really, really it had the same kind of dread building that like Hereditary has, with just more
Mm,
subtlety.
mhm.
Um I don't think it's Malka Monroe. I think it's something. Is it Malka Monroe? I'll look it up.
I think so.
Um,
Maybe.
but yeah, I think Blackcoat's Daughter really it, I don't know. It's really really worth it to see. Thank you, Micah. That's right, Micah. Um, but also Watcher is great if you haven't seen Watcher. She's great. She's on the rise. I love seeing that.
I mean, I could talk to you all night about the horror
I
movies I've seen this year. Then
know.
it seems
I
like, and we'd
know.
have so much fun.
We'll
We'll
have
have
to
to
do
have you
another
back on the
one.
show to talk about horror movies. Then
Please, please,
we won't
please.
talk about each other. We'll just talk about horror movies all the hours.
I
So.
just like yes, please, please. Let's do it.
But we only have a couple minutes left. How can folks find you first of all?
I am on the interwebs. If you are amenable to spicy content on Instagram, I am the Helena Handbasket. I'm also on Blue Sky. I think I'm only Handbasket or only Helena on Blue Sky. Some iteration of that because I'm new to Blue Sky and I still don't understand the handle thing. I've been off of X because I won't touch it. But yeah, you can find those there. If you're interested in watching Revealer, my first feature, second feature, I was also in a polyamorous rom-com called Two in the Bush, a love story, um, which is very fun, polyqueer film. That one's on Amazon. Revealer is on Shudder and Amazon. Black Mold is on Tubi. And if you need a little Christmas cheer, I do have a fun cameo moment in the film Christmas is Cancelled, with Janelle Parrish and Dermot
Oh,
Mulroney and Haley Arantia. I can never pronounce
I
her
thought you were
last
just about to say I have a little cameo in Terrifier 3, and I'm like, I don't remember
name.
seeing
Wouldn't
you.
that be
But
fun? I wish I had a cameo in Terrifier 3. But yes, in Christmas is Cancelled, where me and my best friend Dermot Mulroney are in the movie together.
oh,
um yeah, and then I've got a number of other things coming up. So or if you're in the Chicagoland area or if you find yourself in Montreal, you can check out one of my burlesque shows.
so you travel a lot between Chicago and Montreal then?
I do, yes. So I at this point I'm kind of splitting my time. My
When are you
partner,
coming to New York with a burlesque show then?
listen, I have been in conversation with my friend Tansy because I really want to do her show Carrot Machine because it just sounds awesome. If you haven't checked out Carrot Machine, it's in New York. So and also Dwayne Park does, I think they do Bathtub Gin. They have like a regular show.
Yes, I think I've heard of that one actually. So.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of amazing New York performers, but Tansy and I have been chatting, and I'm hoping that I can come through to New York. But yeah, I also am very often at the Wiggle Room. My partner lives in Montreal, so I bounce between Chicago and Montreal. But if you're in Chicago, I always post my show lineups as a pinned post on my Instagram monthly. So if you're ever like, what's happening in the basket world, come check out a show.
And do you have any TTRPG things coming up?
I have so many TTRPG things coming up. So I am part of Bleak Season, who is one part of Folk and Myth. I am part of the VTM Montreal that we're doing. It's not Montreal by Night. I want to be clear. The Montreal by Night is a different person, a different group of people, but it's this VTM Montreal where we're doing the juxtaposition of the city of Montreal and the underground city of Ville Marie, which actually exists, which is really fun. Which is going to be this big, like spider webbed out Camarilla, Sabat, werewolf, like all of these different things. I'm really excited to be doing some really immersive role playing one-on-one things with Darling Creepshow, who's in the chat right now, who's a good friend. So those will be kind of the big vampire things that I'm going to be doing. Starting, all of that starts in January on Folk and Myth. January 10th, I believe, is the first day of some of that. And then later on in the year, I will be releasing a series on Queen's Court Games. I'm kind of keeping it under wraps, but it should be around Mardi Gras is the release date. And I'm really excited about this. Our storyteller, Maui, really did some beautiful things, and confirmation from Bleak Season that January 10th is when we are going to be launching all of the VTM. If you are interested, I believe the Instagram handle for that is Vampire Montreal. So it's going to be this like big, expansive, massive world building thing. So not a singular vessel. It'll be kind of a living entity. So I'm really excited about a lot of that stuff.
That sounds really cool. And then of course the inevitable, someday you and I will make a movie together.
Listen,
in the horizon at some point.
I am so fucking serious about that. And I'm guessing that we could probably do it in like 2026. I bet we could do it.
We can make that happen. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Because next year I've got my other movie, so then 2026 we'll focus on that.
Yeah, we'll do it in 2026. It'll be great.
That's perfect. 2026 it is. I'll see you there.
Great.
If I have to come out to Chicago, I'll come out to Chicago. So
done.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. I really, really, really appreciate having you here as my guest this week. Especially before the holidays. I know things get hectic right now, but I appreciate you making the time for me. So
I am so delighted. Thank you so much for asking me, just because I enjoy you so much as a person, and I have been very eager to work with you. So to just sit down and chat with a good friend is good for the heart.
One of my favorite parts of doing the show is I just get to hang out with somebody and talk for an hour, and that's what's fun about it, and introduce lots of people to lots of people. And if anyone, we have a lot of new people I've never seen in the chat before who probably came because of you. So if you want to join and come back and ever do anything else with us, SideKick Productions is a queer, fat positive, sex positive production company. We mostly focus on movies, TV shows, and horror. But I dabble in the world of TTRPG. So hello, everybody. So Caito, thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful, wonderful week. I appreciate you all joining us tonight. And with that being said, that I bid you all adieu.
And that's a T.